Okay, so right now I'm going to show you how to sketch this massive thing. 2 sine 2x plus pi on 3, or bracketed plus root 3. So before we continue, I just want to point out that this 2 is working on this x plus pi on 3, and all of this stuff is being signed. And that square root 3 is outside, just so you know clearly. And we're going to sketch between minus 2 pi and 2 pi. Okay, so let's do this. So I just want to mention that I tried to do these without calculators, and I got very confused. And, well, I didn't get that confused, but it's very difficult to do accurately and to check. It's always good to have a calculator to check. So I'm going to be showing you how to use the calculator as well to make this work. So first we go into graph. Actually, we go into this graph down here, so I'm just going to press that. I'll try and show as many buttons as I can. So now I'm going to type this equation into here. This is how I would actually do it in an exam, because you're going to want to check. Because the calculator is going to give you a good idea of what the thing should look like. So I'm going to put an x in. This is me just typing in the equation exactly as written. And now I close both the brackets. Okay? So you see x plus pi and 3 inside that bracket in there, and then the 2 is outside that. And now on the very outside I can do the plus root 3. Plus square root 3. Okay. So that gives me my graph. So I have it all the way across. But we only need a certain domain. So I can actually edit that so that I only have that domain showing. So I'm just going to open up the equation again. What you need to do now is press Control the equals button to get this symbol over here, which is given. So now this is given that x, I can tell them where to put my x. So let's make it between minus 2 pi is less than or equal to x, which is also less than or equal to positive 2 pi. So this will tell my graph where to go. Great. So now it's only giving a much smaller section. Okay? Okay. So let's leave that for the moment and show you, go back to the basics of how to do this. And I like using PSA, but you don't really need to use it, but it's just handy for me, because when I get from 2 pi minus 2 pi, PSA just gives me an idea of what I need to do first. So before I get any idea of what's happening, I need to know the period of this. So usually we use the formula, I need a scrap piece of paper. Okay, usually we use the formula 2 pi on n. But note here, the number in front of x is 1, but if you actually expanded it, it would become sine 2x plus 2 pi on 3. So that 2 is actually affecting the x. So this n is not 1, not that number in here, it's anything that's in front of the x, which is the 2. So this n would be 2, so our period would be 2 pi on 2, which would equal pi. Period equals pi. Now our starting point, I like to put it on a separate piece of paper just so it can be very clear. We just sub x equals 0. Y equals 2 sine 2 of pi on 3 plus root 3. So technically there should be brackets around here, but it makes it a little bit uglier. So I'm just going to separate it by distance. What's sine of 2 pi on 3? If we draw our circle, we know it's over here. Okay, it's pi minus pi on 3. And sine is positive. So sine of 2 pi on 3, it's the same value of sine of pi on 3. And if you look at your little cheat sheet, it's root 3 on 2. Okay, so now we know y equals 2 times root 3 on 2 plus root 3. So that equals, you cancel these, 2 root 3. Okay. So let's just see if that's about right. Root 3 is about 1.57, I don't know, something like that. So we're expecting, yeah, good. We're expecting to be positive and somewhere maybe up here. Okay. Finally, we want to know where's our top and bottom. Like, this calculator can tell us everything, but it won't give us exact values. So we need to figure out all the exact values here. Okay? And then we can just label them. So for example, I could just put 2 root 3 here. And I'll know that's the point I'm going to draw later. But finally, we should figure out the top and the bottom. Our amplitude is 2. It's the number in front of the sign, affecting the sign. So therefore, our max and our min, it's positive 2 plus root 3, and negative 2 plus root 3. Okay? So our max and our min will be, so just make it a little bit higher, 2 plus root 3. Note that they are different. This is 2 times root 3, that's 2 plus root 3. This one's a bit bigger. And just below would be 2 minus root 3. So this will be our maximum and our minimum. This is where we're starting. And we're just going to sketch that graph right there. Okay. So now finally we know our period is pi. That x should be up here. That period is pi, so we're going to have 1 revolution by here. And we should have 1 full revolution by here. And lo and behold, it does 1 full revolution by around there. So, let's draw it. Now notice that I didn't just come up. I had to do the full revolution, so I have to go all the way up and then down. So keep that in mind whenever you do this kind of question. You need to do the full revolution. You can't just end it just because it's at the same place. You need to think about what it's going to look like. So I'm going to go up. I need a full revolution by here. See, that's exactly the same. And finally, by there. So we know all of these things at pi across have the same height because that's a period across. So I can easily just go 2 pi 2 root 3. 2 pi 2 root 3. Okay? Finally, we just put in the x-intercepts afterwards, after all this. So PSA and then there's a little x. Okay? So how do we figure out the x-intercepts? Let me find a corner that I can use. Okay, let's just use this corner. So, back to our equation. X-intercepts is when y equals 0, so we want 0 to equal 2 sine 2x plus pi on 3 plus root 3. So now we take the root 3 over, becomes negative root 3. We take the 2 over, and we know that equals sine 2x plus pi on 3. Okay, so let's go use our unit circle. And we know that minus root 3, remember sine is the height, so minus root 3 and 2 is going to be down here and over here. This is going to be pi on 6. This is going to be pi on 6. Another way to remember it is, you know in your cheat sheet that sine pi plus pi on 6 is negative. So we want a negative version. Okay. So that's not pi on 6, that's pi on 3. Equals negative root 3 and 2. And this other one, which is pi minus pi on 3, or 2 pi minus pi on 3, equals negative root 3 and 2. I do it a little bit differently to you, so you might be a bit confused there, but you just need to figure out what the angles are. And we should end up with the same angles for sine as 4 pi on 3 and 5 pi on 3. Okay? Now that we have both of them, we can just sub it back in. That means 2x plus pi on 3 equals 4 pi on 3, 5 pi on 3. I need more space to do this. Therefore, I'll take the 2 across. X plus pi on 3 equals 2 pi on 3, 5 pi on 6. What I did was I divided everything by 2, so that 4 became 2. And divided that by 2, and that 3 had to become a 6. Therefore, x equals pi on 3 and 5 pi on 6 minus pi on 3, which equals 2 pi on 6, which equals pi on 3 and 3 pi on 6, which equals pi on 3 and pi on 2. So having a look here, this should be pi on 3. So I'm just going to do that, pi on 3, and that should be pi on 2. And roughly looking at the graph, that's about right, because that's pi, remember, roughly. So how do we figure out all the other the intercepts after this? Well, remember, we just need to add a period, because after every period it just cycles. So this is exactly 1 period further than that. This is exactly 1 period further. So that's pi. So what's pi plus pi on 3? That would be 4 pi on 3. pi plus pi on 2, that would be 3 pi on 2. Over here, that would be pi on 2 minus pi, which becomes minus pi on 2. That would be pi on 3 minus pi, which becomes minus 2 pi on 3. And these last two, we just need to subtract one more period, minus 3 pi on 2, and minus 5 pi on 3. So to summarize, I'm sorry it's taken so long. I tried to make it as fast as I could, but I just wanted to explain everything very clearly. You get your period, okay, you put it into the calculator, so you get an idea of what it looks like. Then you get your period to figure out how many cycles to draw in, the starting point, the amplitude, so you can figure out the maximum and the minimum, and then you just solve for x, okay, to put in each of these values. You could do most of this on the calculator if they can give you exact values. There may be a way to do it. If anyone knows, just tell me. But this is possibly the way I like to do it best. Okay? And if you practice it, you can probably get it down to maybe a minute or two instead of 11 minutes. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later.